Ladies and gentlemen of Knucklehead Nation, welcome to episode 6 of Keeping It Clean with Manny Robles. I'm one of your hosts, the Fighters Rep, along with my legendary co-host, the pride of Jalisco, Guadalajara, Man- Manny
That's right.
Robles.
How did you know that? How did
I
you know it was from Jalisco?
I remember everything you tell me, Manny.
All right. Yes, Tapatío.
You said La Tierra of the land of tequila and
And the
mariachi.
mariachi. That's
There
right.
we go. And
That's
great
right.
and great boxing. I mean
Oh,
Canelo's
absolutely.
from there too, right?
Yep. Among other great champions that we've had in the past, Alejandro La Cobrita Gonzalez, Cholo Lolarios, Papelero Estrada, El Alacrán Torres, Jorge Vaca, Kiko Vejines, Negro Vejines, a lot of great champions. Chatito Jauregui. Woo.
We might need to go out there and check it out pretty soon, man. You might need to
Yeah,
show
man.
me around.
Oh, you'll love it. You won't want to come back.
Well, Benny, it's interesting that you bring up El Alacran because there's another Alacran that we're going to be talking about today. You see that? You like that segue. You like that segue.
Oh, my goodness. This
And
guy's an animal.
we're talking about Miguel Berchelt.
Yes,
We're
sir.
also going to be talking about the Moloney brothers. I also wanted to bring up Jarrell Big Baby Miller's failed drug test.
Not again. Oh,
Oh,
my goodness.
again, and I also want to talk about the UFC, which you told me you watched that Dustin
Woo.
Poirier fight
Man,
against Dan
what a
Hooker.
fight. What a fight that was, huh?
Oh man, that was incredible. I love the fact that you're getting into it.
Yep,
Um,
man.
but let's start off with the Miguel Berchelt versus Valenzuela fight. I mean, what were kind of your thoughts on that one, Manny?
Well, durable fighter. He didn't win a round, but he stuck around for a little while, and Berchelt gave him a beating. And as we all might have expected, Berchelt is Berchelt.
Yeah.
He's someone to reckon with at the super featherweight division. In my opinion, he's probably the best. I mean, it's very competitive. If you look at some of the other champions at 130, they're legit. They're very good champions. But
Yeah.
I think we would have to probably give the edge to Berchelt because he's been there for the longest. He's had the most title defenses from anyone else at the 130 weight class.
What do you think it is, Manny, that makes him such a dangerous fighter?
He's he stays busy. He's definitely the type of fighter that puts on a great deal of pressure. He's a pretty good boxer. He does make mistakes. He does leave himself open from time to time. He does expose that chin, but he's strong. He's strong. He's durable. He's always in great shape. Consistent from beginning to end, and he's got a great like a lot of Mexican fighters do, like Barrera Chavez, a great left hook to the body.
Yeah,
Beautiful,
yeah. He also,
beautiful left
Manny,
hook.
one other thing that I noticed about Berchelt is he seems to throw a million punches and never get tired.
Mm, that's what I'm saying. Consistency. He's
Yeah, yeah.
like I said, he's always in, and that's a sign of him being in good shape always.
And the other guys in the division, Leo Santa Cruz, we've got Rene Alvarado, Chris Colbert, and then we've got Joseph Diaz and Jamel Herring. So you think of those guys that Berchelt is the cream of the crop in that division.
I do believe so. I do believe so. I mean, I like Joseph and Jamel Herring. Obviously, they're two great boxers. They have great skills, great ring generalship. They're both Olympians. They're both USA Olympians,
Wow.
by the way, which I had the honor to. Oh, excuse me. I had the honor of working with both Joseph Diaz and Jamal Herring and for the 2012 team. We went to the World Championships together in Baku, and We went to the Olympic qualifier in Brazil together. By then, Joseph Diaz had already qualified. He qualified in Baku by beating Oscar Valdez. He actually beat him by 1 point. I beat him by 1 point. So it was a
Uh-huh.
very close fight. Great fight, close fight in a neutral zone, if you will, a neutral country, which was Azerbaijan. So, it was in the U.S. or Mexico. It was a very, very good competitive fight. And then on the other hand, Jamal Herring ended up qualifying in Brazil. That's where he qualified to the Olympic Games for 2012 in London at the London Games. So they're both two top. They were both two of the top amateur fighters for the U.S. And now they're both world champions.
Yeah.
Incredible.
You know
Same weight
the
class.
Manny, the interesting thing for me about Berchelt is, I mean, he almost looks like an American fighter, right? I mean, he's got this like tattoo on his neck, and he kind of, I don't know, he kind of seems like an urban kind of look at American dude. I
Yeah.
thought for a second he was an American kid, you know?
Well, you can say that. He's fought in the United States a few times, so he's familiar with I believe the boxing culture here in America.
Yeah.
So he can definitely adjust to the different styles. I still think, in my opinion, I still think that if Shakur Stevenson was to move up at 130, I still think he's the man to beat at 126 or 130, in my opinion. I
Shakur.
could be, yeah, Shakur, definitely. I think we're looking at the next Floyd Mayweather. Excuse me, I got this
It's
cough.
all good.
I
It's all
think we're
good.
looking at the next Floyd Mayweather, and because he's just, man, he's incredible. He's got his ring IQ is just out of this world.
That's huge that you say that. And I want to get into the fact that you foreshadowed. I mean, you're foreshadowing that. You also foreshadowed what happened last week
Mm.
between Andrew Moloney and Joshua Franco.
Yep,
But I feel like I'm not done with Berchelt yet. I wanted to ask you couple more
not a
questions
problem.
about Berchelt. Yeah, before
Mm.
we move to that. So you also brought up Oscar Valdez, right? And I
Oh, Oscar
guess
Valdez, he's a mandatory contender to the WBC title, which Berchelt holds.
right,
Holds,
right.
so that would definitely be a. Everybody wants to see that fight between two great Mexican warriors, and that would definitely be a hell of a fight.
And he's going to be coming up from featherweight to challenge
Yeah,
Berchelt. Am
you
I
know
right?
what's funny? What's funny is that and a lot of some people might know, some people might take this into account, some people may not. But what's funny is that Oscar has yet to fight at 130.
Right,
Or,
right,
or, or not, I shouldn't say him fight at 130, but has yet to face a 130-pound contender.
right,
You follow
right,
me?
right. Yeah,
Like
because
in his last fight, he fought Lopez. Lopez actually stepped in for Oscar's opponent because Oscar's original opponent came in overweight, so he didn't make weight. They weren't, management team and his team were not going to make the same mistake they did or they made when Scott Quick came in overweight and they took the fight. So I think they learned their lesson from that fight. And this guy came in overweight as well, maybe thinking that Oscar Valdez and his team would still take the fight. But like I said, they learned their lesson from the Scott Quick fight. They skipped on the opponent, and they brought in Lopez. He was actually on the same card. So what they did, but Lopez came in at 126. Yes,
right,
Oscar
right,
came in at
right,
130. Oscar came in at 130. Lopez came in at 126, and he gave Oscar a run for his money. He actually floored Oscar.
right.
He actually dropped Oscar in that fight. And but Oscar came back and went back to being Oscar Valdez and ended up stopping Lopez in the later rounds. Uh, he went back to what he knows. Sometimes a fighter, when a fighter ends up, with his back against the wall, he fighters always end up going back to what they know, and that's what, in my opinion, that's what Oscar. That's Oscar. That's how Oscar was able to win. He had to go back to who he was at one time or who he is, because that's who he is, went back to who he is, and got the W and got the knockout.
And what was kind of the adjustment there, Manny? Because you said he went back to who he was, so he obviously,
He's a fighter.
yeah,
He's an aggressive fighter. Oscar's not a boxer. If you're not, you can't make Oscar box. I'll be honest with you. If Oscar fights Berchelt and decides to box or tries to box, it's going to be a short night for Oscar.
wow,
Oscar's got to go back to who he's always been, an aggressive, come forward fighter that doesn't give you any breathing room. That is there to fight, because the Oscar has skills, but he's a skillful fighter. The people should give him a lot more credit than they do when it comes to skills. But you gotta let Oscar be who he is. You can't take away that from him. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Because if you do, you're not gonna get. He might find himself in trouble. You're not gonna get the in my opinion, the competitive edge, and especially fighting somebody like Berchelt. I said this before, and I'll say it again. Oscar has a pretty good chance to be Berchelt, because he's going to be on. Berchelt's not going to run from him. He's going to be standing right there in front of him, and like I said in the beginning of the show, Berchelt does make defensive mistakes. He exposes that chin. And if you expose that chin against Oscar, Oscar lands that left hook or that big right hand of his, and it could be a short night for Berchelt. On the other hand, I don't think, like I said, Berchelt is the man to beat at 130. On the other hand, he's a natural 130 pounder. He fought at 135 on Saturday night. He didn't have to fight at 130 because he wasn't defending his world title. On the other hand, you're fighting against the naturally stronger fighter of the two at 130.
yeah,
And look, it took Berchelt a little while to get this guy out. At
yeah, yeah,
135,
yeah.
very durable fighter. He
But
won every round though, every round.
but Manny, did you feel like he was carrying him for a little bit of that fight?
Yeah, because there's nothing wrong with getting rounds in.
Right, right,
I mean, it wasn't going to do him any good to come in and knock this guy out in a couple rounds. You remember, he dropped him in the first round.
right, right.
And knock this guy out in a couple rounds, and then have the big fight versus Oscar. You need rounds.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
need rounds. You get the you can't just go in. I mean, it's not gonna benefit you. I mean, if it happens, then so be it. If you knock a guy out in one round, what are you gonna do? But if you can carry the guy for a few rounds and get that work in, it's going to benefit you in the long run.
Right. So Manny, the setup. It looks like the setup is to get, Valdez and Berchelt to fight each other for that, for that WBC strap that Berchelt has. But it's not going to be so simple, right? Because Valdez still has to go through his, I guess, mandatory, which is Jason Velez.
No. That's not a mandatory. That's another, because remember, there's no mandatories because
Or an
Oscar is not
interim,
world
rather.
champion.
I guess a
No,
fight in the interim.
it's just a fight.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just a fight. But the Puerto Rican Velez, he's not a 130, 130-pound fighter. He's actually a 126.
I see.
You know what I mean? So if you look at his record, the majority of his fights have been at 126, with the exception of Ryan Garcia. He fought Ryan Garcia at 130, but again, like I said, Velez is not a 130-pounder. He obviously, if the money's right, I'll fight at heavyweight.
Right.
If the money's right. You know what I mean?
Right.
But although I'm not a heavyweight, but sure,
Well, we're headed
you
there.
know what I mean?
We're headed there in this quarantine, Manny.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I gotta tell my guy sometimes.
Well, Manny, this
Velez,
yeah.
Velez is he's not a 130-pounder. He's more of a 126-pounder. But obviously, for this fight, he'll be coming in at 130. But again, like I said, Oscar is not fighting a natural 130-pound fighter.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if that, in my opinion, this is my opinion. I don't know if that helps. That's gonna help Oscar. You know what I mean?
Right.
You want to fight against a natural 130-pound fighter that's been campaigning at that weight to know where you're at, to know where your power's at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to know if you can actually, hold your ground against a 130-pound fighter.
Right.
I love what I saw from Berchelt because he went up to 135 when he didn't have to, but he went up to one not knowing that he wasn't fighting, that he wasn't defending the title, and he fought against they found the right opponent for him. They
Yeah.
found an opponent that was durable, and Velez is a durable fighter. On the other hand, with Oscar, Velez is a durable fighter. I think Velez is going to give Oscar a decent fight.
That's
I
what
see
I
Oscar winning.
That's what I thought too. That's why I brought it up. But the fact that now you're telling me that he's a natural 126 makes me second guess that now a little bit.
No, 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 no. I don't mean that in that way. I'm just saying that Oscar should be fighting a natural
No,
130
I
pounder.
agree. Yeah, I agree. I
But you
agree.
got to think of I don't take anything away from Velez. Actually, I think he's a much better opponent than the opponent Berchelt fought on Saturday. Oscar's fighting a
Valenzuela.
much better
Yeah,
opponent.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But the thing is that you got to think future wise. You got to think, okay, if I'm gonna face Berchelt, let me face a natural 130-pound fighter
Right.
to know exactly where I'm at before I can think about someone like Berchelt. Does that make sense?
Oh, of course. I mean,
That's what I mean.
it
I don't.
seems.
That's exactly what I mean. I don't take anything away from Velez. I think he's a good opponent. I think he's a better opponent, like I said, than Valenzuela, the kid Berchelt fought on Saturday.
Yeah.
But he's not a natural 130-pounder.
Why do you think they would do that? Because I wasn't aware of that. I'm glad you bring that up. Why do you think they would do that?
I don't know. I mean, I think about these type of things, and then obviously knowing fighters and being involved in the sport and having having the experience that I have in boxing and I just kind of like put one and one together
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and and, and okay, this guy is like why would I fight a boxer that's not a natural 130 pounder, and why not fight somebody that can somewhat of a decent opponent like him, but at 130, that can give me a good fight, give me just like Berchelt, give me work, give me the rounds I need, let me know where I'm at before I step into the ring to fight someone like Alacran Berchelt.
So back to Valdez versus Berchelt. I mean, assuming Valdez gets through Velez, um, how does he? Because you're saying he can't be a boxer; he needs to just be himself. But that sounds like that's going to end up being a war between.
Yeah, it should. It should. That's if it turns into that kind of fight, I think Oscar has a better chance. If Oscar decides to go out there and try to, box him on the outside and try to be the counter puncher, which he's not a counter puncher, then let's put it to you. Let me put it to you this way: Oscar's not a counter puncher.
Yeah.
He's an aggressive, come forward fighter. He likes to initiate the action. So if you got him stepping back and trying to control distance and range and be the counter fight and be the counter puncher, that's the wrong fight, especially with someone like that Ted.
Gotcha. And you think Shakur Stevenson, I mean, even at his young age, would be able to handle himself with Berchelt, a guy as
I
seasoned as
think so.
Berchelt?
Honestly, I think so. I
Wow,
honestly
wow.
believe that. Look, people might not agree with me, and like I said, we're all entitled to our opinion. But man, this kid is incredible, man.
Yeah.
This kid is he's and he wants to fight everybody. He's not backing up. Look, he's calling out everybody at 126, at 130. So I think he's a man to beat at either way, 126, 130. I don't think he'll be a 126 for too long, but he's definitely the man to beat.
Very cool. So, I wanted to kind of circle back. We mentioned Andrew Moloney, the
Yeah.
Moloney brothers last week. We mentioned specifically the Moloney versus Franco fight. You
Uh-huh.
obviously have a lot of experience in your trilogy with Oscar Negrete against Joshua Franco, and you made the bold prediction right here on Keep It Clean with Manny Robles. You said, I think that the experience, this is what you said. You said, I think the experience that Joshua Franco got from that, Negrete trilogy is going to help him win this fight.
Ah,
And you were,
not only, yes, sir. Not only the trilogy with Negrete, but his lone defeat. He had a defeat early in his career by knockout. He actually lost by stoppage. And that was a great learning experience. That was a heartbreaking fight for Joshua. I remember it was he took it hard, but I believed in the kid, and I honestly thought that the kid was going to learn a great deal from that fight. And then obviously with the Negrete fights, I believe that took him over the edge, and that's why he was able to fight the way he did versus Moloney on Tuesday night.
and Manny, at just 24 years of age, I mean, you predicted him to become the WBA, flyweight, super flyweight champion,
Super
rather.
flyweight,
And,
right?
and that's exactly what happened. I mean, Manny, what did you see there? Did you look into your crystal ball?
Honestly, no, no. It's honestly, that's what I'm saying. I mean, sometimes you just don't look at the record. You know, you could look at Maloney's record, right? 21-0 with, I believe, 14 knockouts, if I'm not mistaken, 14 or 17, or that might have been the other
Yeah,
brother,
yeah.
17 knockouts. Great record, right? Undefeated record. But if he's never fought in the United States before. Had never fought in the United States before. I think the majority of his fights had been in Australia, if not all. And then, I don't want to sound like it was a manufactured record, because you still got to go out there and fight and win.
Right,
But
right.
the opponents were set up for him to win. Yes,
Right,
the
right.
opponent, including when he won the world title, and then the undefeated record. It was if you want, I don't know. I don't like using the term, but it seemed like he had a padded record.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
And
and
just
so
and just to confirm, Manny, you were
yeah,
right. He had never fought outside of Australia except for
right,
one fight. He fought in Chile, and he was basically 21 and 0 with 14 knockouts.
right, correct. So there you have it. So I mean, look it, man. I mean, this kid Franco, shit, he ain't scared of nobody. He's got that experience. He's fought tough fights. He's fought the tough opposition, and he's had, like I said, he's had that loss. He's had those draws. He's had those wars with Negrete where they like I said, it got him over the edge. It got that the hump, if you will. And he had the experience. He had the knowledge. He's not scared. Why? Because he's tasted defeat before.
Right.
You know, and on the other hand, with Moloney, had all the confidence in the world. But I don't blame Moloney. I blame the management team. I blame, yeah. Who else do you blame? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
who else do you blame if you're gonna build it? Look, and most coaches will probably agree with me, and managers and so forth, that you gotta sometimes, man, you just gotta test your fighters. You gotta know what you're working with.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't fool yourself, man. Sometimes, you just gotta know what you have. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Keep
you can't just, you gotta know what you're working with. If you're in this for the long run, and this is your investment. These are your fighters that you're investing your time, and time equals money. Time and money, and you gotta know, you can't just, you gotta let them go sometimes. Every now and then, you gotta put them in tough,
yeah, yeah.
because then what are you working with then? Because then eventually you're gonna have to fight somebody tough like Franco, and then what?
Right,
What are you
right.
gonna do then?
And all respect to Maloney, but like you said,
Yeah,
I don't see any name I even recognize on his resume, Manny.
right. You know, and then we're not and I honestly believe that the other brother, the other Maloney brother, the one that fought on Thursday night at the 118,
Yeah,
I think he's better of the two.
yeah.
I believe, this is my opinion. I think he's a better boxer of the two, and he proved that on Thursday night. Uh, uh, he looked great. He looked very well. He looked good. He definitely didn't want, go. He definitely didn't want to go home with a loss. You imagine both brothers coming to America, debuting in America, and they both end up going home with a loss.
Yeah,
That would have been that would have been tragic.
that would have been a disaster.
Would have
And
been
you know,
tragic.
and you're talking about Jason Moloney. He fought Leonardo Baez, and that was the Thursday
Hmm.
after the Tuesday of last week when Andrew Moloney fought. I wanted to ask you, Manny, because I love like the technical aspect of the fight game. You know what I mean? And I feel like nobody's gonna understand that better than you. I was watching the
Yeah.
Andrew Moloney versus Joshua Franco fight, and I felt like Franco was fighting at a very tough pace for somebody to be able to hang with him for 12 rounds. And I just felt like eventually Moloney just couldn't keep up his movement. It was very much for me like that Gvozdyk versus Beterbiev fight at light heavyweight where Gvozdyk was moving around a lot and Beterbiev was just kind of fighting on the inside and mid range and just
Uh-huh.
eventually just he couldn't take the heat, couldn't take the pressure.
Right. Couldn't take the
What
heat. Right.
what what was it that you saw in that fight with Joshua Franco?
I know Joshua has this great ability to get in and out, and he always finds this. And that's one thing that Negrete and I worked on in the gym is not to allow him to do that. Like he'll set you up and take a step back and counter you and catch you coming in with a right uppercut or a straight right, and that happened time and time again in the fight. He's got a great left uppercut, beautiful left uppercut. He can go to the body with his left hook to the body and pick you up with that left uppercut. I love that from him, and he looked like the more seasoned fighter. Yes, he looked like the more experienced fighter of the two. And take this into account: Joshua is only 24, and
Wow. Wow.
Maloney's 29,
Wow.
and
Wow.
I believe he has more fights than Joshua does. And plus he was a world champion, and Joshua looked like the more seasoned fighter, like the more experienced fighter. Why? Because he's been against tougher opposition. He's been against tougher opponents, so he's graduated already. He graduated before he did, you know.
Right,
And
right,
Maloney's the one that was the one holding the title belt, you know.
right. Shout out to Tayel Books and Timothy Grant. Thank you guys for joining us in the chat. We'll get to your questions closer to the end of the show. Um, Manny,
Sir.
I'm watching Franco, and the guy's just a machine. I mean, the guy's a machine. And I said to myself, wow, what a pain in the butt it must have been for Manny to have to train against this guy. I mean, how do you, I don't know, from what I saw, I said to myself, how do you beat this guy? Because he's got so much volume. He doesn't stop coming. He's, slick on the inside and can fight on the inside and at mid range. I mean, how do you beat a guy like that? You know what I
Well,
mean?
we definitely had a game plan versus Franco with Negrete, and those were great fights.
Yeah.
That was a great trilogy. Sometimes trilogies don't end up being one. Like the first fight's always the best fight, and then the second fight might be pretty good, and well, the third fight, But every one of those fights was a great, good, exciting fight, and we fought Joshua Franco in his backyard, and on that third fight,
Wow.
So we could have gotten that decision, but knowing that we fought him in his backyard, it's definitely a close fight. A fight I feel we won, but we got the draw. Same thing happened in the first fight, and the second fight I felt like we won, and they he Franco got the decision, but that's fine. I'm sure they feel the same way. I'm sure speaking to Robert Garcia, good friend of mine, after that second fight, when they got the W, I told him, look, with all due respect, I feel like we won the fight, and yeah, and I
Yeah,
told
yeah,
Robert,
yeah.
but he's a gentleman, and he's a professional, and everybody, like I said, we're all entitled to our opinion. That's how I felt. That's how I saw the fight. But I'm sure he feels otherwise.
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
he felt like his fighter, had a better night and deserved to get the W. And that's what happens in the ring stays in the ring. And that's what a lot of people don't know or don't understand, that we as coaches, we respect one another for the most part. I don't have beef with any coach out there. And we respect one another, and because we understand what fighters go through. We understand what fight their ups and downs and what fighters go through at times. So obviously, we're there for our fighters 100% of the time.
I would love to be the fly on the wall in that conversation between you and Robert Garcia after that
We're
fight.
cool, man. His only his only mistake is that he's an America fan and I'm
What?
a Chivas fan.
Oh, okay, okay,
And when it
okay,
comes to it
okay.
comes to Mexican soccer, I'm a Chivas faithful, and he's an America fan. So he doesn't know nothing about soccer.
I love it, man. I
He
love it.
doesn't know nothing about soccer.
So, I mean, are you interested now in maybe running it back for a fourth time, with Franco now that he's got a title, another title that
Oh
Negrete could
man,
possibly pick
look,
up?
look. I honestly, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. After that second fight, I did not want a third fight. I said, if they're gonna fight again, it's got to be for a world title. It's got to be for something meaningful. And guess what? Now Joshua Franco's a world champion. Now, can you imagine a fourth fight versus with Negrete? That would be incredible.
My
And I
goodness.
and I and I and I believe, and I honestly believe that Negrete deserves a shot at the title.
Yeah.
He's definitely earned, just like Franco did. I believe Negrete has earned the right to fight for a world title. So if Franco would give us the opportunity to fight for a title, we definitely take the fight without question. Because now, we're talking about a world title now. We're not just talking about any another another 10-round fight. You know what I'm saying? And whether we're I mean, it wasn't like every time they fought it was a title eliminator, or to get you in the top rankings, in the top of the rankings. It was they were just fights.
Yeah.
So we want to see these fights, but we want to fight for something. Not fight just to fight. And get paid. You know,
Absolutely.
and get
Absolutely.
paid. Because these
Absolutely.
guys, with all due respect to the promoter and whatnot, yeah, there were great fights, but I honestly believe that they didn't get paid the money that they deserve to get paid with such wars.
Yeah. 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 And that goes into Manny Robles' care for his fighters. And,
Yep.
obviously, if you all don't know, you should know Manny also manages fighters. So
That's right.
big shout out to his company, LBA Legends.
That's right.
You can
Yes,
you can follow them on Instagram, and you can follow Manny at it's Manuel.boxing on Instagram,
that's
right?
correct. That's correct.
That's right. So
Anybody,
definitely give him a
anybody,
follow.
anybody wanna work with me, or is interested in working with me? Just give me a shout out. Send me a message. We'll sit down and we'll talk, and we'll talk. Possibly, you know, getting signed with my company, Legends Boxing, and we'll make something work.
Big things on the horizon, Manny. I'm feeling big things on the horizon for you and for us at Fighters Rep as well. Hopefully, as soon as this pandemic lets up, boxing is back, but kickboxing in California, at least, I can't come back yet. But big things happening. Not just in these lighter weight classes either. I mean, obviously you've got a heavyweight on deck
That's
that
right.
might be earning a title shot at some point in Prince Charles
Yeah.
Martin.
Mm-hmm.
Lot of really cool stuff going on. Speaking of heavyweight, Manny, I wanted to shift gears real quick, and my goodness, Big Baby Miller just seems to have basically eliminated himself from the heavyweight picture once and for all with a third PED positive test, failed drug test here, Manny. What are
Uh,
your thoughts on
uh,
this one, man?
Shameful, extremely shameful. You get strike one, you get a second strike. Now you're on your third strike, man. You know what happens to people, to third strike offenders, right?
You're
You
out of
know,
here. That's what
you're out
happens.
of here, right? They go to jail, right? They end up doing time in prison. Well, I'm not saying that he should do time in prison, but he should definitely be expelled from boxing. He should definitely not be given the opportunity to ever fight again. He's done this for the third time now. I mean, there's no excuse for it. There's definitely no excuse for that, for something like this. And there's fighters out there that get suspended for boxing for lesser crimes, if you will.
Right, right,
And,
right,
and so this guy, it is what it is, man.
right,
I mean,
right,
make
right.
him. There's a consequence and a repercussion to your actions, man. And I believe that he should be suspended for boxing permanently.
You know what's crazy, Manny? Because I mean, at one point he was slated to fight Anthony Joshua, and that's and that's
Yeah,
where your story kind of
yeah,
crosses with Big Baby
yeah.
Miller's.
Exactly. That's exactly right. He was scheduled to fight Anthony Joshua, and he tested positive, and they were looking for an opponent. For Joshua at the time. Andy fought on April the 20th versus Dimitrenko, and a week later we get the call. I guess they like what they saw. They saw that Andy was a legitimate opponent for Joshua, especially after that great performance versus Dimitrenko, when most people didn't know anything about Andy. It was his first fight without Heyman. He fought the co-main event at the StubHub. Looked great. Looked sensational in my opinion. And we were fortunate enough to get the call versus Joshua, and obviously we took upon the opportunity. At the time, Andy was in great shape. He only took a week off after the Dimitrenko fight, which you can consider that fight a tuna fight. You know, and then having an 8-week camp in preparation for Dimitrenko. The fight versus Joshua couldn't have come at a better time.
Yeah, yeah.
We continue. We got right back in the gym. We got him ready, and we shocked the world.
And Manny, I think people that really know boxing know that. I mean, Dimitrenko's not a pushover,
He's
right? I
not a
mean,
walk in the
he's
park. It was no walk in the park. Definitely not. He's not a pushover. He was a contender at one point, and it was a great fight for Andy. I mean, God works in mysterious ways, man. The way the fight came about, the way that came about with Dimitrenko and then Joshua. What happened after that, I don't want to talk about that. But
right,
after we
right,
beat
right.
Joshua, everybody knows what happened. But we can't forget. You can't forget where you come from, because the moment you forget where you come from, you have no direction in life. So understanding where we came from, where we were coming from at the time, and all the struggles and the ups and downs to get us to the big fight versus Joshua, we made sure we took advantage of it.
Right, and that all stemmed from Big Baby Miller having problems with
Yeah, yeah.
PEDs, and the other coincidental thing about Big Baby Miller, Manny, that I thought you might be interested in, is he had a 22-2 kickboxing record. A lot. Yes, he was 22-2 in kickboxing. So not just a boxer. He was a
Wow,
high level kickboxer. He actually fought for Glory
incredible.
kickboxing. So I mean,
Oh man, this
it's
guy's he's legit. He's
yeah,
legit.
yeah. So I mean, it's
Why? I
really
mean, I don't know. I
shameful.
don't understand why he did what he did, man. I don't understand. There's no need for that. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking, man. I mean, a third time?
And then
Come on, man.
23-0 in boxing. I mean, he's 23-0 with one draw, Manny.
I know. I know.
And
It's
again, this is
shameful. It's shameful.
right. And again, I mean, what you're saying to ban him completely for boxing, some people, may say, "Oh, that seems a bit harsh," but I don't think so at all. I think that's the
No, come
proper
on, man.
I think that's the proper punishment for a
Yeah.
guy who's a
Three
huge
strikes, three strikes and you're out, right?
right, and he's a huge heavyweight, Manny. And when you're taking those kind of things to give yourself more of an advantage and more power, I mean, at heavyweight, you could really harm somebody in that
You
ring.
could definitely. Yeah, let's remember Margarito. I know it's not the same situation, but let's remember Margarito versus Miguel Cotto.
Yeah, and we also had 4 deaths in boxing last year. You
Yeah,
know,
it's not good. Not good at all.
we had among them, I think it was Patrick Day. We had Dadashev, I
Oh
think was
man,
another
Patrick
one.
Day. I got a chance to work with Patrick Day in Temecula on a top rank card. I was his cut man for a fight. And what a great guy, man! I met him. That's the only time I met him, but he was a true gentleman, and a great guy. I got a chance to talk to him, to meet him, and it's heartbreaking. What happened to that kid is just my heart goes out to his family.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the most disturbing things I think I've seen in watching boxing, especially when I saw the replay and I knew what happened to him
Hmm.
afterwards. That was tough to watch, Manny. But that kind of, I think that goes to what you're saying here. If you're a person that keeps cheating and you know the consequences of what that cheating can do to somebody in that ring, man,
Yeah, that's just hard.
that's horrific. Manny, I wanted to ask you back to the Moloney brothers real quick. Was Oscar Negrete supposed to fight the other
Yeah,
Moloney brother?
yeah. As a matter of fact, Negrete called him out after the fight. He's like, because Negrete had a detached retina, but it wasn't as serious as people thought it was. He had surgery already, and the doctor recommended for him to not do anything at all for like the next couple of weeks, and just to let it heal, let it rest. And so he has, and obviously he stayed tuned to that fight as well as I did, and try to watch all the fights. And yeah, so I saw his post on Instagram where he called out one of the Maloney brothers that went up on Thursday. Say, hey, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go. So we're hopeful and we're praying and we're hoping that everything turns out okay with the surgery and that he's okay now. When he goes back to the doctor, let the doctor determine if he can fight, which I'm sure he will, God willing. And then we'll get his. Why not? Let's get a crack at Maloney. Let's get a crack at with all due respect, let's get a crack at Joshua
Franco,
Franco,
yeah,
if
let's
given
make
the
things right.
opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, why not? Let's. Like I said, it doesn't matter who. I believe that Negrete has already paid his dues, and he's definitely deserves a shot at the title at his weight class, which is 118. But he can also make 115. The first time he fought for the world title, he fought Vargas at 122, and that's not his weight, especially then. But what are you gonna do? You get an opportunity at the world title. You got to take
Right,
it.
right, right.
You can't turn a world title fight. It doesn't matter. Hey, like I said, they called me today to fight for the heavyweight title, so I'm not gonna turn it down. Let's
For
go, baby.
sure.
Let's
For
go.
sure. You've done it before. You'll do it again. You know what I
That's
mean?
right. That's
Um,
right.
Also, interesting enough, it looks like that Dillian White Povetkin fight, finally seems to have gotten a solid date.
I got Dylan White.
Yeah,
Got
yeah.
Dylan White in that fight.
Yeah, I would
Definitely.
agree. I would agree with that 100%, but it looks like it's happening. I believe they said August. I'm not
Hmm.
even sure right now, but yeah, I mean that's definitely something that's exciting to look forward to in the heavyweight
Yeah.
division.
Yeah.
And as the heavyweight division clears up, I mean, where do you see
Hmm.
where do you see Charles Martin going next? What happens to Charles Martin?
We're the mandatory to the IBF title with Anthony Joshua holds the IBF world title. So we're the mandatory, and we're waiting for him to make his title defense versus we just talked about him like a couple weeks ago.
Pulev.
Pulev, yeah, Cobra Pulev. We're waiting for him to fight Pulev, and then after that we got next. But then anything can happen. Everybody's talking about Joshua fighting Tyson Fury next year. So hopefully we'll get hopefully we'll get a shot at the title before Tyson Fury. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
hoping get a shot at the title, get a crack at the title, and give Anthony Joshua a run for his money.
I definitely hope that happens, man. That seems like a really exciting opportunity
Yep.
for you there, Manny. And we've also, just to confirm it, Dillian White is going to be taking on Alexander Povetkin on the 22nd of August. So,
Yep.
boxing's back, Manny. Boxing is back, and
Great.
we're almost in full swing again, man.
Yeah, that's great, man. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, there's a lot of great, exciting fighters out there that people want to see. People want to see the best fighters fight. We haven't gotten that yet. Obviously we got Berchelt to fight Saturday night, but we all understand that this was a tune-up fight. It wasn't anybody in the top 10. He wasn't defending his title. But I like what I saw. It was a fun fight. I mean, he won every round, but it's not winning. It's how you win. It's how
Yeah,
you get it
yeah.
done. So the way he got it done, was pretty good. Pretty good. He got a pretty good grade on my card.
It's like when we discussed Ryan Garcia. He did what he was supposed to do, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you do, want to talk about Ryan Garcia, yeah. About him knocking guys out in the first round. Well, good.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that's he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. I mean, if you these type of opponents, if you let them take you the distance and make you look bad, then you're not doing your job. You're not getting it done the way you should. The way it's expected from people, right? If they got you on a pedestal and they see you as a top contender, then prove it.
Yeah.
And he's proven it. He's proven that. I mean, he's done. Knocking guys out in the first last couple of opponents. He's been knocking them out in the first round. I mean, that's pretty sensational, man. That's pretty good. So you gotta give credit where credit is due.
Right, right. Manny, you've worked with Oscar Valdez in the past, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, let's say, with you, exactly. Let's say Oscar reaches out. Let's just say,
Yeah.
hypothetically, Oscar Valdez reaches out to Manny Robles after the Jason Velez fight, says, Manny, I need you for this fight against Berchelt. I can't do it without you. What is the game plan that Manny Robles puts together to fight a guy like Berchelt with a guy like Oscar Valdez?
Well, the game plan, I think I have a pretty good game plan. I don't think anybody knows Oscar better than Manny. I don't think anybody knows what makes Oscar tick, what makes him go. I don't and I don't think anybody knows Oscar's style better than I do. With all due respect to Eddie Reynoso, even Eddie Reynoso, I don't think he knows him better than I do.
Wow, I
I
like
honestly
that.
don't think he knows him better than me.
I like
You
that. I
know,
like that,
I
Manny.
I I've known Oscar for obviously much. I've known Oscar for much longer than people think. Even before I started working with Oscar, I I knew of Oscar because I've been following Oscar since 2009. I was at the World Championships in Milan, Italy, uh, representing a certain team at the time, a certain country, and so I got a chance to see the Mexican team, the USA team, of course, supporting both countries, and I got a chance to see Oscar cruise, not cruise obviously, but get all the way to the semifinal where he faced Vasily Lomachenko. Oscar did
Wow.
that
Wow.
time. And Oscar actually gave Vasily a pretty decent fight, but Vasily Lomachenko Is who he is, man. And so obviously he won that fight, and he moved on to the finals, and won the gold medal. Oscar got won a bronze, lost him in the semis, and Oscar, again, aggressive come forward fighter. When I had the opportunity to work with Oscar, I did change. I changed quite a few things. One of the things I worked on was on his defense and his footwork and his, his balance, and his balance, his timing, his ring generalship. Um, and I feel like I did a pretty good job. I mean, enough so to get him to the world title, and beat some pretty good opposition along the way to get to the world title, and beat a decent opponent by knockout in the first round. And when he won the body shot, left shot to the liver, when he won his world title, and make. But I think we did about 4, maybe 5 world title defenses together.
Wow.
So, like I said, I know him well enough, and I have a great deal of respect and love for Oscar. But I have to be honest. I mean, I have to tell it like it is and give my opinion. At the end of the day, it's my opinion, whether it
Right, right.
matters to some people or not. It's my opinion, and just like, and I believe that Oscar is definitely not the same fighter he used to be. That's my opinion. He's not the same fighter. He's not uh, you know, when he fought Scott Quigg, they broke his jaw in that fight, and he was still able to go out there and not quit. That's one thing about Oscar, man. He's got no quitting.
Yeah, yeah.
Oscar's a warrior who fights with the broken jaw
Wow,
for
man.
the next
Wow.
7. I think this happened like in the 4th round. This is a world title fight for. So who fights like with a broken jaw for the following 8 rounds?
And Quig is no
And
joke, Manny.
and
Quig is no joke.
Quick was a former world champion, and he came in overweight and refused to come in the following day, the day of the fight. They try to get him to come in at a certain weight class. Okay, you come in overweight. Now we got to make sure that you don't come in more. I believe it was more than 10 pounds over his weight class.
Right, right.
Yes, which is 126, and he came in over 140 pounds. He was actually a welterweight.
Wow, man. Wow.
Actually a welterweight. So let me, on my defense, let the world know. Let me let the boxing community know that it wasn't my fault that they I didn't agree to the fight. This was his team. I won't mention names or anything like that, but his team, other than me, decided to take that fight. They decided to take it.
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
asked me, what do you think, Manny? Should we take it or not? Nobody asked me. Nobody called me. Nobody called me in the room to get my opinion. They decided to take the fights, and they did, and these are the consequences.
Right,
So it was by no means was it my call.
right, right. And when you say he's not the same fighter, I mean, is it because he's shop worn or is it
No,
because he
no, he's
changed
not the
his
same
style?
fighter. He's not the same fighter because they're determined to change his style.
Got you, got you. Okay,
You know,
okay. Yeah,
they
yeah.
I believe I changed this style when I first started working with him. I believe I didn't change his style. I added to his style. See, you can't change a fighter. You understand, when a fighter's been fighting a certain way, a certain style his entire life, his entire career. You can't just come in and try to change the guy from one day to the next.
Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
me personally, this is me, of course. This is my opinion, and this is what I would do with the fighter. What you do is you add to that style. You understand what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you can add to it according to the style. You cannot expect everybody to fight the same way. You can't expect all your fighters to fight the same way. Look at Negrete. You know, Oscar Negrete he's a warrior. He's gonna go in there and throw 100 punches around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what do I do with Negrete? I add to what he already knows. I work according to his style. I'm not gonna make Negrete a counterpunch. I'm not gonna make Negrete a Shakur Stevenson.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right, right.
impossible. That's impossible. But what you do is you work according to the boxer style.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense to me, Manny. And that's the thing a lot of the best a lot of the best trainers kind of I think say that, especially in MMA. That's where
Yeah,
I've really had the chance to sit down with a lot of good trainers that have also said, yeah, you just kind of want to supplement what the guys already do well.
yeah. Look,
Um,
look. Let me tell you, when Andy fought Joshua, we came in with a great game plan, and I knew what I understood by studying Joshua and being a fan and watching him fight for so long. I knew what I understood what his biggest weakness was, so I worked according to that, you know, and
man,
it worked,
you
and it
were
worked.
that was incredible. You absolutely found his weakness, Manny.
Yeah.
Let's check out the chat real quick here, Manny. We've got Tayel Books
Um,
in here. He says Nápoles un gran campeón también. So I guess he's referring it was Nápoles, I guess from
Cuba,
okay.
el
So
mantequilla. I think he's talking about el mantequilla Nápoles,
when you were talking about the guys, all the guys from Guadalajara,
Guadalajara.
from
Yeah, but he
Jalisco.
was originally from Cuba, but he's a Mexican Cuban.
Got you,
But
got you,
I think
got
he
you.
was more of a Mexican than he ended up being a Cuban at the end. Yeah, because he fought his entire career in Mexico and or representing Mexico, that is, and he was a great champion, definitely a great champion
Wow, very cool. Timothy
from
Grant.
Guadalajara.
Timothy Grant in here. Billy Bob says hello, hello, Billy Bob. Appreciate you. Timothy Grant says, Manny, considering how dirty boxing politics are, it is absolutely impossible for me to believe Jay Miller popped hot. I believe he was sabotaged and there's an agenda against him. What are your guys' thoughts?
Ooh,
Con-
man, I well let it be
conspiracy
proven.
theory, Manny. Conspiracy theory.
Hey, it's we're in America, man. It's innocent until proven guilty, right?
Right, right.
And so if that's the case, then I mean, he's been proven guilty because he's been tested. But if there's a way, I mean, if I don't know, I mean, if he believes he's innocent, his P team believes he's
For this kind of thing. So I don't know if I would buy in to this whole
correct.
conspiracy, considering he's apologized in the past about it. I mean, if this conspiracy has any legs, Manny, I think it would only apply to this time because again, he has apologized and admitted that he messed up and stuff like that in the past. So yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, should we give him the benefit of the doubt? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Kevin from Chicago says Charles Martin lost to Kaunaski.
Yeah,
Yes, Charles Martin did lose to
he
Kaunaski,
did.
Kevin,
It's a
but
great fight.
in a
It's a
great
great
fight,
fight.
right? But
Great fight.
I
Toe
think
to
if
toe.
if you look at the guys since that fight, I think Charles Martin has surged upward, whereas unfortunately Kaunaski ended up
Right.
losing recently to Robert Helenius, a guy who
Correct.
everybody thought was way over the hill, and
Uh-huh.
Kaunaski just hasn't looked good, Manny, in his past couple fights. What's going
No,
on
no.
with
I
Kaunaski?
don't know. I wish I knew. I mean, he's definitely not the same fighter that fought Charles Martin. And Charles Martin definitely isn't the same fighter that fought him the first
Right,
time.
right,
I would
right.
love to, really, we'd love to get a crack at Kawanaki again, you know. But it's boxing, like, as I said, and that's what when you appreciate, UFC where fighters give great fights, like the fight we witnessed on Saturday,
Oh wow.
and yet you walk away with the defeat, but you also win. I said this earlier. It's not how you win. It's not winning. It's how you win. And the same thing goes with losing. Sometimes, yeah, you lose, but it's how you lose too. If you go out there and if you give it your all, and you give the fans what they're asking for, you walk away a winner, man. Because believe me, they're gonna call you again. you're gonna get another opportunity. You're gonna get another crack at it. So it's again, it's not losing. It's how you lose. So
Yeah,
all is winning.
yeah, and Manny, it's pretty amazing. I got to give you so much credit because I feel like you've sort of defied the physics of boxing in so many ways. First off, with what you did with Andy Ruiz,
Hmm.
showing the world that a guy who's being brought in at the last minute that's supposed to be the B side can get the job done with a great game plan. And second, with Charles Martin, I mean, if you would have, if the casual boxing fan would have looked at Charles Martin after that Kownacki loss,
Right.
they would have probably said, oh, and his loss to AJ, they would have probably said, oh, this is the end of the road for this guy.
Hmm.
But I mean,
Hmm.
look what you've done for him. I mean, Charles Martin has never looked as good
Hmm.
as he had in his past fight. And
Hmm.
Kownacki, on the other hand,
Yeah.
a guy who at one time they were saying might fight for a title, you know,
Right.
barely got through
Yeah.
with Chris
Yeah.
Areola. I mean, I thought Areola
Right.
gave him a much tougher fight than he should have. And then
Hmm.
gets beat up by Robert Helenius. It's just crazy.
It's crazy, man. That's welcome to boxing. Anything can happen in boxing. That's the beautiful thing about this sport is like you can't go to sleep on anybody. You can't never be too overconfident. You know what I mean? Because you just never know what can happen, and that's why I love challenges. I love these type of challenges, but I also you also have to know what you're working with as well because you can't want it more than your fighter. Your
Right,
fighter's got to
right.
want it too, But if you're both on the same page, if you're both, focused on the ultimate goal, then it works, and then there's chemistry, and there's an understand. If you have a good mutual understanding, then you can be you can do some good things. You can definitely do some incredible things together with the right team and the right fighter and the right trainer and the right manager, the right promoter, the right everything. Because it doesn't just it takes a group of people to get to the top. You know what I mean? You can't do it on your own.
Yeah, and Manny, you mentioned the UFC fights this weekend. I mean, they were absolutely incredible. But my mindset when I look at the UFC versus boxing,
Uh-huh.
in the UFC, if a guy loses, I don't write him off. But I have
Right.
I have been guilty in the past of
Mhm.
writing people off after a loss in boxing, which is not something people should do.
Correct.
And I think this ties into you again, and the reason why I say you defy boxing physics is because Gallo Negro. I mean, this is kind of, I guess, boxing weird boxing math here.
Right.
Gallo Negro. Gallo Negro is a guy that beat Robert Helenius,
Mm-hmm.
lost to Kownacki.
Right.
Kownacki beat Charles Martin, but then Charles Martin knocks out Gallo Negro.
Yeah. Yeah. There we go.
So,
Anything can happen in boxing.
so I'm
And
saying to
these are
myself,
and then these are heavyweights too. By the way, these are big boys. You know what I mean?
right, right. So I'm saying to myself now, after seeing that entire mix up, I look at Gallo Negro, a guy who, I think is a really cool guy and an interesting guy. And I say, man, I can't write this guy off. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
sure he lost to Kownacki and he lost to Charles Martin, but he
Mm-hmm.
also beat Helenius,
Hey,
who just beat
and
Kownacki.
another thing. Remember that uh, Gallo Negro was giving Deontay Wilder a run for his money.
Oh yeah, oh
He
yeah,
was actually beating. He was actually thank you. He was actually beating Deontay Wilder in that fight before that knockout.
hundred
You know,
percent, 100%.
and but then we all know what Deontay Wilder can do with that right hand. So I that's boxing for you. That's just it. Anything can happen on a good given day.
For
You
sure,
know.
Manny. For sure, Manny. Well, Manny, believe it or not, we're at over an hour and 5 minutes already.
Okay.
I
Is
continue
this
to
it? Is it time to say goodbye?
Pretty much,
Man.
I continue to take hours and hours from your life on this show, brother. Is there anything, is there anything you wanted to say? Anything we left out? I wanted to discuss the UFC fights with you, but that maybe we should leave that for another
Yeah,
time.
but it was a great night of UFC action. I love the fights on Saturday night, man. I love what I saw. What was it? The guy that was getting. Let's just talk about this real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
Talk about how the guy that was getting that got dropped in that third round, and then he I don't know what he did. I'm not
Right, right.
familiar.
He did.
With
He did. I think it was an arm triangle from the
Yeah,
bottom
right.
and
What was
choked
his
out his
name?
opponent. That was Maurice Green against John
Maurice Green.
Vellante.
Man, he got so emotional after that fight, and it just I want to bring. I actually wanted to bring that up. He got so emotional after that fight, and that just goes to show you just never know what fighters are going through. Boxing, UFC, it's a very. I mean, it's not the same sport, obviously, but you can actually compare what happens with the athletes, because they go through so much. People sometimes people think these athletes make millions of dollars and that they're set and that they're financially stable, and that's not always the case, man. I believe he got emotional because he was given an opportunity. And now he moves on to something bigger and better, and the struggle. It's actually the struggle, not the fight itself, but the what when what's led to the fight. The struggle is what you get to appreciate and understand that these guys, man, these fighters, they deserve a lot of respect. I think every fighter deserves respect because every time you step into the octagon or into a boxing ring, you're putting your life on the line, man. These guys fight for family. They fight for honor. They fight to give to give their families a better quality of life. And so it's just, man, when I see stuff like this, it's just like, man, like dude, yeah, you just gained a fan with me. You know what I mean? Because
Right, right, right.
because wow, like I said, what they go through is sometimes could be very painful. Being rejected, not giving up, not giving opportunities. It's kind of like the Rocky movie, but in real life. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
where
yeah.
people count you out, and then all of a sudden you're given an opportunity, and you make sure you take advantage of it. And when you get the victory, it's so gratifying. It's so satisfying that you can't help not to cry because I feel the same way. I can because I remember when Andy beat Anthony Joshua, I got very emotional because you think of the struggle, you think of all the ups and downs that you go through in life to get to that point and to get the victory. Man, my goodness, it's a wonderful feeling. So
What
congratulations.
did you get a chance to watch the main event too, Manny?
Oh man, what a fight, man! That fight reminded me of Diego Chico Corrales and Jose Luis Castillo, man.
Oh my
The first fight.
god.
Woo, man, what a fight. I was actually talking about it over lunch today with the great Rudy Hernandez. He's a cut man for the UFC. And
Very nice, very nice.
yeah, Rudy and a good, great friend, mentor, friend, teacher, everything, man. This guy, I have a great deal of respect and love for Rudy Hernandez. And along with my son, we're all having lunch, and we're talking about the fights, man. I'm getting excited with this UFC. These guys at the UFC, and I'm like, man, I'm not getting more and more hooked onto the sport, man. It's great.
Yeah, that was a fantastic fight. That's actually a fight that I predicted was going to happen on this channel because that division was a little bit tied up.
Is it okay?
Yeah, yeah, and actually the champion of that division, I'm sure you've heard of him, is Habib
Yeah,
Nurmagomedov, the one that beat Conor
yeah.
McGregor.
Yeah, he's
Um,
he's an animal, man. He's a beast.
and Poirier, the one that won the fight on Saturday night, had
Uh-huh.
actually he had fought Habib and lost to him.
Mhm.
But he's trying to keep that number one contender spot or
Yeah.
close to it. You know what I mean?
What a fight, man. Woo wee!
Yeah, that was a fantastic
Can't wait for the
fight.
next one.
And
Can't wait for the next
another
show.
thing you brought up that I wanted to address, you're talking about like the emotion of the fighters and the lead up to the fight and everything that they go through. And
Yeah.
earlier today, when talking about Jarrell Miller, you were talking about three strikes. What happens when you have three strikes? I just felt compelled to bring this up. That reminded me of a fighter that we have that competes on a lot of the Fighters Rep shows. He wasn't at the one you watched, but he's been in a couple absolute war fights of the night for me, and he's our champion. He's one of our champions. His name is Wilson Ha, and
Nice.
Manny, he was a two striker. He was a
Okay.
two striker. He got his third strike. We did a whole
Wow.
documentary about him leading up to one of the fights.
Oh
He
man.
escaped to China after getting his third strike.
Wow.
Yeah, he came back. He ended up facing his time, doing his time. Then he found, Muay Thai and kickboxing and kind of turned his whole life around. So it kind of goes back to
That's
what you're talking about.
right. Sports, man. I mean, they change people's lives. You know,
Absolutely.
a lot. Most fighters actually, you know how it is. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
most fighters
Oh
come from from uh from poor, poor background. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think anybody that has a lot of money or anybody that's rich is gonna want their kids to box or practice MMA. You
Right.
know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
They
Right.
try to keep them away from these type of sports because let's face it, these type of sports, MMA, boxing, they give people like myself, people like maybe like you, people that come from, they come from the hood, man. They come from poor backgrounds,
For
and
sure. For
and and
sure.
and and be given an opportunity, again, like I said, to change their lives around. At the very least, become good through sports.
Yeah.
At the very least, become good people, good citizens. Because what do sports do? They teach you discipline.
100%.
They teach you
100%.
to get up early in the morning and go put your miles in. Go put your strength and conditioning in. Go put your work in with boxing and MMA and whatnot. And they teach you discipline. They teach you to work. They teach you respect. Respect your peers, man. Respect others. That's. And at the end of the day, it's like, if it's able to change your life for the better and become better people, a better husband, a better father, a better brother, sister, uh, uh, then it's a win-win situation, man. And it's nice to understand that sometimes, we wish all of our fighters could become world champions, but we know that the reality is different. Because it's a tough business, it's a
Yeah.
tough sport where not everybody makes it. But again, like I said, you know, being able to do what you love, and then being able to walk away from the sport and move on with your life, because there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Life has so much to offer. And so when you see people become successful in life, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Manny, this gives me an opportunity to plug this new series I'm doing on the channel as well. Every Fridays now, we're doing like a sit down, lot more
Yeah.
formal interview with fighters and just people in the fight game. I sent you the link to the one for Roman Puga.
Yeah, that was great. That was
Um,
great. I loved it.
Thank you, man. And this Friday we're doing a guy by the name of Krishna Kim, who's the head fight coach at NHC in Los Alamitos. He's a Cambodian American
Wow.
Manny, and if you don't know, they have their own style, and some people believe they're the ones that created Muay Thai through a style called Pradal Saray. And he's tied through his grandfather to the Long Beach Kickboxing Academy, which has been there since who knows when. I mean that place
Okay.
is an institution, and he told me that Omri, which is his grandfather, that is the head of Long Beach Kickboxing, has done more to keep kids in Long Beach out of gangs and out of the street than any government or government organization.
I believe
That's
it,
what
man.
he's told me.
I believe it. That's awesome. I believe that. And like I said, and through coaching, I've been coaching pretty much for most of my life, and I've always put my fighters first. Every one of my amateur fighters the amateur fighters that I've ever worked with, professional fighters that I've ever worked with, they know that I have always put them first, and that I've always given 100% of myself for them to be ready to win. That's not always the case, of course. Sometimes you lose some. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But it's been extremely gratifying. It's like I said, to see these kids to move on and to become good people. Like I said, to be move on with their lives and like the discipline of the sport. It takes you a long way.
Yeah,
You have the right, just like you having the right fundamentals in boxing. Well, you have the right fundamentals in life. You know,
yeah, yeah.
you have the fundamentals, which is that's what makes you.
I couldn't agree more, Manny. Thank you again, man. Thank you so much for your time, Manny.
Anytime.
Always a great show, guys. We do this every Monday at 7 p.m. Me and the legend, Manny Robles. Any fighters out there that want to get some work in,
Welcome.
maybe want to get managed by one of the most honest and fantastic people I've met in the fight game,
Thank you.
reach out to Manny at manuel.boxing on Instagram or LBA Legends on Instagram. And Manny, we'll be running this back next Monday, guys. Thank you for joining
For
us.
sure.
Until then, keep it clean, guys.